Hi there. You'll find on this same site that I talk about my own story. And in answer to the question that you may not have posed, but I will pose here, is God there? First of all, I was growing up as a child and teenager. I think my response was, as I hope not. Because if he is, I really don't want to get involved with him. He felt like a sport. Um, I just didn't like always the fruit of what I saw in Christians' lives. I felt it was repressive, bigoted, hypocritical. Every word you've probably thrown at it yourself. If you struggled with faith, then I would have done that as well. But I did an analogy recently that if you're really drowning and someone comes along and puts a hand out, you don't interview him about where he's come from and what sort of hand he's putting out. You tend to grab it. And that was true for me. I got to a point where I was really drowning. And some people that had invested in me were there for me when I reached out. And so I had a go at grabbing the hand of God. And very interestingly enough and fascinatingly enough, I went into the prayer, not knowing, came out of the prayer absolutely aware that something really fundamental had happened. And so for me, I think the answer was starting to get answered. Is God there? And if you'd come in and you'd interviewed me at that point, I'd say, well, I don't know, but I know something's just happened to me. And two things happened. I'd done a whole load of stuff in my life that kind of made me feel slightly ashamed. It was the time when you tried everything. And, apart from the really gross things that, horrible, but just experimenting with sexuality and kind of drugs and alcohol. And, we kind of did all of those things. And some of them I felt were enhancing. Some of them were really depleting in my life. And so I actually, inside, was beginning to feel a bit grubby, but didn't quite know what to do about it. I'm walking around knowing you need a shower, but don't know where the shower is. And something that happened at that point when I went into the prayer, I was able to say, I'm so sorry, I've made a mess of things, the Lord. And whatever that did, I felt as if someone had just opened up a shower inside of me and I'd gone under it. And I came out and I felt different. I felt clean inside. And I have to say, as a Christian now, and I've been a Christian a long time, because that happened when I was 19, one of those wonderful things about being a Christian is the understanding that you can have inner hygiene as well as outer hygiene. Now, outer hygiene is well established. Children aren't terribly into it. You have to teach them how to do it. But as you get older, you kind of know there are certain situations where you need a shower and you're jolly glad you go in, then you come out again. What I learned about Christianity, old-fashioned archaic language, if you like, sin, you can just call it the dirt that you kind of, you get grubby as you live. Is that shower was opened. It was actually opened on the cross of Jesus, if you've wondered what that's all about. But you could begin to be clean on the outside, and that had a huge impact for me. Again, I can't tell you much about it. I just know that I felt clean and it felt good. And I know still that if I sense that something's contaminated me, sometimes I feel I get slimed, and sometimes, I have to be fair, I feel I slime by mistake, and neither of those feelings feel very good. But I found that if you go in and you kind of take the equivalent of this shower, you come out feeling different. I think the Catholics would call it confession and absolution, but you don't have to do it ceremoniously. It's something that can go on as a transaction between you and God. And so that process has gone on in me since I became a Christian. So is God there to help you with that? The answer for that is yes. And there is this kind of misconception that if he is going to give you a shower inside, he's flipping well going to go through every single stain and say, where did you get that? And how many times have I told you not to go into that puddle? There's going to be this monumental lecture. And that you're going to go in, feeling really, really awful. But that was not my experience. Now, I do believe this shower, if you like to run with this analogy, for Jesus was very, very expensive to install. It cost him everything. But I think he really takes pleasure in knowing that we can be clean on the outside, inside as well as the outside. You know, and if my kids go out to play when they were younger and they kind of fell in a muddy puddle, I might just look exasperated for a minute. But basically, the deal was to get them in the bath as soon as possible, get them clean. They felt good afterwards. I felt good afterwards. So that process of knowing that you can kind of know that rightness on the inside has been enormously impacting to me. And I find it with the people that I work with as well. We kind of have a moral compass inside. We know when we go astray from that. And we know that then we feel both guilt and shame. The guilt is a feeling really concerned about what we've done. The shame is the feeling that builds up when we've done it so often and we have no place to have a shower. And it isn't just a smudge, but we feel like we're living a smudge. And that comes into my counselling room a lot, the guilt and the shame. So that is the first thing really that I discovered, was that I felt different inside. I felt cleansed. And I know it sounds a weird thing to say, but I absolutely did. And then the second thing was that I felt that I'd become connected. And whatever it was I was connected to at that moment, it felt good. And again, that's become a person for me. And he is good. And I'm going to discuss in this next series of videos about the problem of believing God is good in tough situations. And I believe with all my heart, probably more now than I did when I first became a Christian, that God is good. But I don't say that lightly. I work with people that have been through really tough things. And I went through something very difficult in my childhood. I went through childhood sexual abuse. I lived with a drinker for 29 years. My husband died of cancer. So if I say God is good, I don't say it lightly. And I say it in the midst of pain and crisis, not through the absence of it. And I think these are really important questions. If we're going to start looking at God and wondering whether he's useful in our life or whether he can help us, then we need to understand that the person that we are letting near us is someone who is for us, who's not going to give us lectures, can help us, and is good. And so I will be talking about pain and where's God in that pain. But I want to say from the beginning, if you come with me on that journey, it's something I have test-driven really, really deeply. And it's not in the absence of pain and suffering, but actually going through the pain and suffering that the goodness of God has turned up in the most amazing way. So more about this later. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.